Good afternoon, members, and welcome to this meeting of Annandale and Eskdale Area Committee on 2nd of September 2020. Meetings are now being held very differently due to public health regulations, and due to COVID-19, we are restricted to the numbers of people that we can have in one place, hence why some members are using Microsoft Teams to participate. This meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be made available on our Council's website for public listening. Could I remind members to follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off their video when you're not addressing the meeting. Should you wish to contribute to any item, you should write "Speak" in the Teams chat function, and you'll be invited to speak in order about new issues. Should your question or issue be raised by a previous speaker, please withdraw your request so that we deal with the business as efficiently as possible. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting can I remind you to either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time, or you could write "Leave" in the Teams chat function and then "Join." This will allow us to monitor member presence. First item is sederunt and apologies. Could I ask the clerk, Tracy Sonko, to provide the sederunt indicating who is participating remotely and any apologies, please.
Thank you, Chairman. We currently have 5 members present. 2 members are physically present in the room, being the Chair and Councillor Drybra. Participating through Teams currently as Councillor Fairbairn, Councillor Marshall and Councillor Tate, and I have apologies from Councillor McClelland.
Thank you. I confirm my agreement to the participation of those members named as participating remotely. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest they wish to make? Thank you. So no declarations noted. Number 3 is the minute of the previous meeting on 27th of November 2019. So we have the minute of that meeting for noting, as this was approved at full council on 25th of June 2020. Are we happy to note? Okay. Item 4 is discretionary budget performance monitoring 1920, the report by Community Planning and Engagement Manager. This report provides members with the detailed analysis of how the Annandale and Eskdale Area Committee discretionary budget has been spent in the financial year 2019 to 20 and what it has achieved. I'm sure members will agree it's very encouraging to see so many citizens having benefited from the delivery of local projects and initiatives. Stuart Hamilton is available to assist members with any questions. Is there anything you'd like to add to the report, Stuart?
Nothing to add, Chair. The only point would be to advise members that they would have received this at their area committee, which was scheduled in March but was subsequently cancelled, and other area committees in the region did receive this report for their monitoring at that time, so it is slightly delayed.
Do members have any questions on the report? I can't see any questions coming in through the chat function. If we could maybe go to the recommendations then, I think firstly, if we can recognise and commend the volunteer groups and all the various community organisations who've done so much with the money that have been awarded. So I think that should be recognised formally by the area committee. And of course, to note the performance monitoring information as detailed in the appendix, and also to note that over 11,000 citizens have benefited from the delivery of 13 local projects, and over £85,000 has been invested in projects in the local Annandale and Eskdale area. Are we happy to note 1 and 2 and recognise the commendation?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Item 5 is the Annandale and Eskdale Area Committee discretionary budget arrangements for 2020. The report by Community Planning and Engagement Manager and Interim Head of Democratic Services. The next report's in relation to the arrangements for the allocation of the discretionary budget. The budget for 2021 is £80,215. Before we begin discussing this report, I should set the context. There are parameters for a discussion based on the strategic framework agreed by full council on 30th of July 2020, which allows area committees to allocate to events and projects which reflect our council's unique civic leadership role, events, projects and facilities which make a direct contribution to our council plan in a locality, events and projects which support the region's recovery and restart plan. Another important part of the context for this discussion is that an elected members' seminar took place on 24th of June 2020, where members present considered their priorities in detail, drawing on background information and discussing the important events and issues across the Annandale and Eskdale area, these being Christmas festivities, ward members' individual awards, remembrance, armed forces and commemoration, events, sport, and COVID-19 renew and restart. A proposed allocation incorporating these conclusions is laid out in Appendix 2. There are a couple of points that I would like to pick up before opening up to members for questions. Primarily, ward members' individual awards. I don't think that what we have in front of us provides members with sufficient scope for the allocation of their individual budget, and I think we should build in some more flexibility. I would like to propose adding in the following to the narrative, or something to this effect, beside ward members' individual awards, and that would be to support key local facilities, projects and initiatives promoting arts, heritage, civic pride and community spirit. The second thing would be under COVID-19 Renew Restart. I think we could be more focused in the allocation of this budget, and I would propose a similar mechanism to what we have established for the allocation of budgets under other themes. So I would like to propose that the wording in the narrative beside this priority is amended to support to enable organisations to adhere to the Scottish Government guidance and restart their activity with a maximum award of £1,000 per organisation. Stuart Hamilton, the ward manager, is here to assist members with any questions before I open it up to members. Stuart, is there anything you'd like to add before I do so?
Thanks, Chair. The only thing to add is on page 33, Appendix 2, in terms of the proposed allocations. We have received correspondence in relation to the Lord Dowding Memorial Service, which would have taken place by now, or would have certainly been programmed by now, this year. So that budget will be available. It is a small budget, an overall small budget for remembrance, armed forces and commemoration that's allocated there. But just to, so that members are fully aware that that element of it, it won't be used this year.
Thank you, Stuart. Any questions from members? I have Sean Marshall first in the list of speakers.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm quite happy with those amendments you've made to the recommendations, or to clarity on two of those areas. I think we had a very good seminar discussion. I think most of the members that were present, agreed, and we did want a little bit more detail on those two areas. I think it gives clarity on the ward members' individual awards, and also I think we were struggling on whether or not to put a ceiling on the given to one organisation. So I think due to the amount of funding that we have, limited amount of funding, I think that's a sensible and prudent way forward. So I'm happy to kind of support the amendments and the recommendations.
Thanks, Sean. I also have Councillor Dryborough.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. Just on the Remembrance, the Armed Forces and Commemoration events, mainly for members' information rather than anything else. I did have a meeting last week with the Royal British Legion Scotland Operations team regarding Remembrance this year, and it appears that what they're trying to do is get local communities only to have at war memorials because of COVID-19, wreath layers, a piper, a bugler, a padre, for each of those particular things. So it would be appropriate, as the Dowding Memorial has been cancelled this year, to do what the suggestion was. However, we would ask people who are in local communities to actually apply for the wreaths as soon as possible, mainly because Poppy Scotland had a flood, a localised flood, and a lot of their wreaths were destroyed in the water, but also some lunatic actually broke into the Poppy Scotland factory and stole some as well. So I would suggest that local communities get in touch with Poppy Scotland as quickly as possible if they want their wreaths.
Thanks, Councillor Dryber. That's shocking that things like that can happen, but very good to raise that to the groups who are interested. I can't see any other speakers listed on the chat function. Are there any other have come in? With that then, can we move to the recommendations? And we're being asked to note the discretionary budget available to Annandale and Eskdale being £80,215. Note the strategic framework agreed by full council on 30th of July as detailed in paragraph 3.5 in Appendix 1. Agree the 6 priority areas for the allocation of the Annandale and Eskdale Area Committee discretionary budget as set out in 3.7. And I think this would also be to include those, the forms of words that I've suggested earlier to capture the local detail on how we allocate that. And then 4 is to consider the proposal in Appendix 2 and agree the allocations. So noting that the Dowding service in Moffat isn't happening this year, I presume we're happy to leave that allocation still there, but just note that it won't be spent on that particular project this year. Councillor Dryber.
I think, Chair, that the wreaths are about £35, something like that. So obviously that can go into other areas if it's required. But certainly on remembrance and even on the Lockerbie disaster, I would imagine that wreaths will be laid on behalf of the area committee.
Thank you, Councillor Dryber. And finally, agree at 2.5 to invite the expressions of interest to deliver the projects and events as outlined in paragraphs 3.9 and 3.10.
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 5 then is Annandale and Eskdale Area Committee Anti-Poverty Grant Funding, report by Young People Services Manager. The next report is the Anti-Poverty Grant Funding for 2020-21, and this report presents members with the draft new Annandale and Eskdale Area Committee Anti-Poverty Grant Funding criteria and details the arrangements for the allocation of this funding during 2020-2021. Again, the draft criteria are based on views expressed by members of this committee at a members' seminar, again held on 24th of June 2020. And proposed arrangements are here for further comment, review and agreement. Wendy Jesson, Anti-Poverty Officer, is here to answer questions. So, Wendy, is there anything you'd like to add to this before I open it up to members?
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. No, Chair, you've covered everything absolutely perfectly, so I'm happy to answer any queries